If you've had an injury to your wrist or your hand and you've been casted or in a splint for a few weeks, you might have some stiffness after you come out. Hi, my name is Kathy and I'm a physical therapist, but if you've actually had an injury, be sure to check with your surgeon or your therapist before you do any of these exercises. Now, these exercises are specifically for my friend Nancy. She had an injury before we went on vacation, and while we were on vacation, she was in a wrist splint and she's been in a wrist splint for several weeks. Now, she's gotten the all clear from her doctor to do some exercises. She's been overdoing it just a little bit, making those wrist tendons a little bit angry. So, if you've been in a cast or a splint for a little while, and as you begin to do your heavier activities around the house, if you find that your um, hand isn't happy with you and everything's getting irritated, go ahead and ask your doctor if it's okay if while you're doing those heavier activities that you need to do, if you can go ahead and use your splint still, because that's going to immobilize you and protect you and maybe keep you from going into the range of motion that's a little bit too much to start with. So I'm just going to show some simple exercises that you can do if you've been immobilized for a period of time. So the first thing we want to do is just a little bit of elbow flexion and extension. Now, I know the problem is more at the wrist than in the hand, but we do want to keep that blood flowing. Now, you can do these throughout the day and you can maybe do sets of 10. And you just want to go to the length that you're able to. You don't want to overdo it on these. You don't want to overdo it on anything. So if these hurt you, please stop and check with your healthcare provider before you continue on. The next thing you want to do is a little bit of pronation and supination. So what that's going to look like is we're just going to turn the palm up, followed by turning the palm down. And again, this is just for a little bit of gentle range of motion. We don't want to overdo it. We just want to go as far as we can comfortably without irritating those tendons and those ligaments that have been injured and have been splinted for a period of time. After you've done about 10 of those, the next thing you can do is a little bit of wrist flexion and extension. We're just going to go down what we can and gently come back up. And again, you can do sets of 10 of these. And if you want to turn your palm up and do the same thing, that's just going to work the wrist flexors a little bit more. The next thing you want to do is a little bit of what we call radial and ulnar deviation. So what that is we're just moving our hand out to the side and then back to the middle. Now, ideally, you would have a table in front of you, but I didn't have a small table that would not cover everything up. So this is just how we're doing it today. I'm just gently resting my hand on the other hand. It's almost just like waving back and forth like this. So the next exercise we're going to do is just opening and closing our hand gently. Now, if that's way too easy for you, what you can do is get a small ball or a squishy or a stress ball, something like that, and just gently squeeze it and relax. So we're squeezing in and relax very gently. Now, if you happen to have had a surgery, um, you'll definitely want to check with your surgeon before you do any of these exercises, because following a surgery, usually there's a little bit of precautions and we just want to make sure that we're not overdoing it. The next thing we're going to do is a little bit of thumb movement. So the first one, we're just going to lift our thumb just like this, just up in the air. And again, you could have your hand resting on a table if this is hard for you. So we're just lifting up like that. From this angle, it would look something like this. And for some reason, I have the urge to say nanu nanu, but if you know, then you're my age. Alrighty. And then the next exercise we're going to do is we're just going to bring our thumb down like this. So that's just a little bit different. Before we were coming out like this, now we're coming down like so. And then the last one, and you'll do about 10 of these, is we're just lifting the thumb up in the air. So we're lifting up and coming down. Then we can move on to a little bit of opposition, and you can do maybe 5 of these. And what you'll do is just touch your thumb and each finger together and open up in between for that range of motion. And then when you get to your pinky, you'll want to slide your thumb down your pinky just to get a little extra range of motion. And you'll repeat this about 5 times. So each finger, you're touching it, and then you're sliding down the pinky. So finger, 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 and then the pinky. The next exercise is called a hook fist. So what you're going to do, if you can see from the side, you're just going to hook your fingers down like this and open up. And this is good to get the fingers moving again. So if you've been immobilized for a period of time, even though the injury may not have been specifically to the fingers or any of those tendons, they may be tight just from being in the brace. And this is a good way to get them moving again real gently. The next one you can do is make like a tabletop. So we're going from this big knuckle here into this type of position and straight. So it's kind of like a weird wave in a way. We're just going up and down just like that. And again, you can do about 10 of these. If you have permission to start using a little bit of a weight, this is 2 pounds. You might want to start with just like a 1 pound weight. And you can kind of just put your hand on the table, maybe like an elevated on a little bit of a towel, and then lift up like that for a little bit of wrist extension. I'd recommend starting probably with a 1 pound weight or a soup can, something like that, because I feel like this weight here, 2 pounds, would probably be a little bit too much to start with and get you a little bit irritated with those tendons and those muscles. But this is just for demonstration purposes. And if you're doing any of these and it causes pain, like I said before, you do want to stop. Next, we're going to turn over and we're going to lift up the wrist like this. So a little bit of a wrist curl. And then you would do 10 of those. And then you can come up this way. So a little bit of radial deviation coming up this way. And you can also do some of the pronation and supination that we did earlier. If you want to make it harder, you can hold on to the end of the weight, and that's going to require a little bit more control as you're going over and back. And you can also do a little bit of elbow flexion and extension. But remember, only use the weight that feels comfortable to you and if you have your doctor or surgeon's permission. So I hope these exercises are helpful, Nancy. I hope you're well on your way to recovery, and hopefully we'll see each other soon. Bye-bye.